Our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb, we are bound to others, past and present. And by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future.
The movie that we're going after is a unique, one-of-a-kind, deep throw, far out into the cosmos. That was going to have to be a bullseye.
I thought it was a brilliant script. Absolutely fresh, inventive, and incredibly ambitious.
They were wanting to push, cinematic boundaries, and they were very clear about that.
It's exciting in every way, and it's a film that hasn't been made before. It's not just another film.
The originality of it, the idea of one person playing 6 different characters, it's a spectacle.
When I conceived Cloud Atlas, the biggest thing in my mind was, can I make the structure work? This Russian doll of nestling, interrupted narratives.
You have to abandon the idea that it's 6 stories. It's one story. So the idea of 30 minutes a segment goes out the window because each of the stories is reflecting on one another as you go through the entire movie.
On one page, you'd go from 1851 to 1974 to, dystopian future.
I thought it would be like a menu with very different courses from different cuisines.
Each story is told with a nod towards its traditional genre.
As each story evolves, you start to see how they all link, and that's incredibly exciting,
Each story propels the next story, and then you're back again, and it propels the next one.
And the energy from one story is sort of feeding the next story, so they slowly start to feel like one thing.
All of our roles are like the pearl necklace for each one of us. Every one of them is connected somehow.
The nature of our immortal lives
Me?
is in
The subtleties do track all the way from beginning to end.
They seem like they're telling different stories, but ultimately they come together.
If you say that there is a meta storyline that kind of binds them on a separate level, all the stories that we have, obviously the idea was they should be connected through something like a character.
When you started looking at the way the story is connected, you immediately were drawn to this concept where what if the villain of one story is actually the hero of another story played by the same actor?
This is like doing 3 seasons of repertory theater, 6 parts a piece, all in one movie. I mean, every time I would pass Keith David in the hallway, he'd be dressed like a guy from a different century.
And then when you see them played by the same actors, it was like, wow.
And sometimes having conversations with people and then realizing, like, 2 minutes in, oh my God, Hugh Grant, I had no idea that was you.
Yeah, we all just say to each other in the makeup trailer in the morning, who are you? What are you playing?
That part was thrilling as an actor and a huge challenge.
By having actors play multiple parts, suddenly you actually get to see the subtle little things an actor can do to change the meaning of a performance so profoundly.
I can't explain it. But I knew when I opened that door...
Each one of those characters, the soul evolved in order to have the strength to be the character that I ended up being.
This sense of having the courage to stand up and be who you are, sort of in a funny way, underpins the book and the film.
And those decisions are the ringing of a bell that goes back and forth through time.
Before we even took the parts, though, we first had to decide if that structure was going to be workable.
We just started finding those connective moments in the cards, and it was amazing how all of them matched up.
We had, I think, a big field of what we all love. Then slowly it had kind of a natural progression towards slimming down the amount of information that one movie can carry.
It's this extraordinary experience where what looks like it can't be done is somehow being done.
All of them, all 3, Tom, Annie and Lana, are just always working and always trying to find new ideas.
Really brilliant in every way. It was amazing to me having 2 different sets. They both have different directing styles, but it works.
The style of our directors are going to be the physical thing that unifies what the entire story is. It's going to have a creative fingerprint that is bodacious.
You know, in the old-fashioned sense, you'll sit there and you will be taken on a gigantic roller coaster ride.
It's going to be an event, a cinema event.
The breadth, the scope, the vast amount of time and space that the movie covers.
Spine-tinglingly epic and moving.
You'll want to watch this movie more than once.
So beautiful, and there's so much to see.
I don't think you could ever be bored for a second.
It's been a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I will never be a part of another film like this in my life.
Some buildings are just doors and windows, and other buildings are great architecture. This movie is going to have a scope that's bigger than anything I've ever seen. It's going to have magnificent, stellar architecture. So many times in movies you are working by yourself, or you're working with the same two people, and no matter how delightful it is, you know, you can yearn for something different. This movie has gone by in the wink of an eye as far as shooting it goes, because every day we are either starting a sequence that is loaded with brand new folks, or we're finishing a sequence that was so much fun to make because of the 3 or 4 or 5 other people that were in it. To me, the whole great thing about being an actor is you get to hang with other really talented, funny, driven, competitive folks that raise your game. You're part of a great team. It's not just a matter of style; it's a matter of philosophy that these guys are doing. You know, a lot of great directors could come in and they shoot, and you can see the previses and the animatics and the storyboards. You say, oh, you get it, and you can see where it's getting. But there is just like some buildings are just doors and windows and floors and elevators and stairways, and other buildings are great architecture. I think this movie is going to have magnificent, stellar architecture.
When I first read it, I knew about the 2 characters I would play, Louisa Ray and Miriam. That they told me right away. When I got the call saying there are 2 more characters they want you to play, I just couldn't imagine in my wildest dream what other 2 women could I possibly play. And then I found out, no, one is a man. And then one is a Jewish German woman. And I thought, wow, I mean, I never would have thought those would have been characters offered to me. So I just got more and more excited as the days went on. What I think about my characters is that if I take the idea that it's one soul, I start off as old native woman, and to me she was the least evolved. And then I move on to Jocasta, who's a bit more evolved, but yet she's living as, like, I called her a ghost of a person. She's living, but she's sort of a shell of a person. She's not really seen, so she doesn't have a voice. And then I go on into the next life to be Louisa Ray, who's struggling very hard to find her voice and find her strength and live up to her father, which she does. And then I go on to play Dr. Ovid, a man, an educated doctor in a way, a surgeon. And then I go on to play a woman, Miriam, who ultimately is part of saving the world as they know it. So I think each one of those characters, the soul evolved in order to have the strength to be the character that I ended up being.
When we started laying all the cards out in front of each other and you started looking at the way the stories connected, you immediately were drawn to this concept. We almost had it simultaneously, where what if the villain of one story is actually the hero of another story played by the same actor? And once we made that connection of what if Goose is also Zachary, and how does a villain become a hero, that became an incredibly dynamic meta-narrative. It happened very fast because what you did is, as soon as you broke out the plot elements and the character elements of every story, you saw how similar they were and how often they were redundant or repetitive, and how often you could use a setup in one story and then the payoff in another story.
It was amazing how all of them matched up, because they are the same story in a lot of ways. It's about, you know, each of the stories is about, you know, power dynamics and exploitation, and the weak are meat and the strong do eat, and they follow similar arcs.
When we discovered that we
Yeah.
might be able to tell a story, like have several stories, create a narrative arc all the way through without any repetition, and really kind of make it work, that you get an explanation about something or even about an emotional situation in a different story, and it still explains the previous one. That felt suddenly extremely exhilarating. And yet, while you watch it, you're just blown away by the impossibility of the excitement that you're being offered.
She was one of the few actors who we, from the very beginning, she was our #1 choice. We kind of felt that we couldn't imagine another actress in the part of all of those parts, a single actress playing the connected parts that we wanted for that character. She was always the character who was going to be the character who helped the Tom Hanks arc evolve.
I mean, encountering the novel for the three of us had a kind of similar dimension, that it was so intense, the reaction, in both emotional and intellectual terms. It was so much hitting so many notes we had been so profoundly looking for, not only for doing something together, but also in general in art and in literature.
Our taste, it so reflected our sensibilities as artists and as humans. So we thought if we could emulate that in our medium through a new experimental structure, make people reimagine these 6 disparate things as a single unified narrative.
We decided that we'd go to Costa Rica and just work on the script.
And our boogie boarding.
And our boogie boarding. I worked on my tan, as you can see.
When you watch a finished film, you don't understand the art form of acting as much because it's quite invisible in the scheme of the movie.
Yeah.
But when you sit behind a character and you watch the range and the different variations and the subtle little things an actor can do to change the meaning of a performance so profoundly, or the meaning of a line so profoundly.
When you talk about any actor in the film, we feel like we've been so impossibly blessed with the casting of this film. We've been so overwhelmingly given gifts every day by everybody also being so involving themselves into the material, but also being these amazing beings around us. And there was this mix. I think it is visible in the movie that every single actor that we worked with really enjoyed it.
We assault the convention of chronology and the convention of time. So you dissolve the idea of time, and our happy endings can be both past and future.
Yeah.
The movie has this idea, the book too, has this idea that every person you meet in your life has the potential to change the direction of your life.